You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Was that a car crash?
No, that was the Beavers game against the Ducks yesterday.
So a train wreck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that was the first half. Can we
Okay.
go with the first half? Yeah, the first half was brutal.
Yeah.
The second half, they made a comeback, but everybody's complaining about two-point conversions, and I get it. Those can be frustrating that they went for it early and often and missed all of them. But the fact that they only forced Oregon to punt once and didn't get any turnovers, I think was the real issue of that game, not the two-point conversions. Just throwing that out there.
You know, I left that off of the show sheet on purpose so you wouldn't have to talk about it because I also did not want to talk about the way North Carolina lost to NC State.
Yeah, that was insanely brutal.
Yeah.
Like,
When you kick a field goal to go up 9 with just over 2 minutes to go, you typically feel like, okay, I think we're all right. Not the case.
But just like Oregon State, NC State also recovered an onside kick, huh?
True. Yes,
Yeah.
they did. But also there was a massively blown, like the one thing you can't do is let someone get over the top of you for a downfield pass in that scenario, and that's what started the whole thing.
Should we introduce like
Who?
ourselves
Yeah.
and others? We should actually start the show, huh? Maybe.
So that's Daniel Hargrove. I'm Justin Domashevitz. We have our trusty producer Andrew Gross. Andrew Goat Gross here with us. Andrew Goat Gross. I think that could be your new nickname.
I like it.
Yep.
And as a special treat, we also have Ian Cope here with us, the voice of Grays Harbor Sports.
Yes.
And he's going to help give us a really good recap of the Monte girls soccer team that went to the state tournament and trophied, which is awesome. And he'll be able to give us a really good rundown of that team because he's there for all of it for years.
Yes. And also, I think he might have opinions on other things. Do you have opinions?
I dabble.
He dabbles in opinions.
In the opinionated nature of things, yes, I have been known to let opinions slide every now and then, or slip out of my mouth. I should say. Yes.
All right, let's get it going with the 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to ref. Gonna do it right. 3-jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Daniel, what are the chances that current number 4 Cincinnati gets squeezed out of the college football playoff rankings this week despite a 35-13 win over East Carolina?
Well, sadly, the board does not like East Carolina or anybody that Cincinnati plays, so I am terrified that they are actually going to get passed up by either putting Michigan State and Ohio State in there ahead of them, even though one of those teams has 2 losses now. I'm freaked out that that's going to happen. Also, Notre Dame beat Stanford, which shouldn't matter for much either, but they really like Notre Dame, even though Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. And then you also have Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma. So all of those opponents, the College Football Playoff Committee likes better than anybody Cincinnati plays, and I'm just terrified that they're going to slide somebody ahead of them into that top 4 and knock them out. In the best matchup of the early college basketball season, 5th ranked Duke beat number 1 Gonzaga 84-81. Not only did this turn out to be a much better game than UCLA, who was ranked number 2 against Gonzaga at number 1. Justin, does this loss by Gonzaga mean anything?
I don't care about this at all. Duke is poop. Gonzaga is fart. Let's move on to the next thing.
I like how you started hating Gonzaga all of a sudden.
The Washington State Cougars crushed the Washington Huskies in this year's edition of the Apple Cup. Daniel, have the 7-5 Cougars exceeded your expectations for this season?
I'm just going to hand this one off to Ian. Have they exceeded your expectations for this season?
Absolutely. No, it was this was not a team. This is a team that was expected to finish last in the Pac-12 this season. So, absolutely they did. And I think when they were 1-3, lost to Utah in just the most horrifying fashion, couldn't get the quarterback right, were misusing Max Borghi again. Yeah, it was an absolute train wreck. And to see the way they've turned it around, to see the way Borghi has taken over, the defense is playing awesome right now. That's what I love about it. Is they're actually a defensive team with a running game. That is what I love about football, and I did not expect it. So yes, they have exceeded my expectations.
awesome LeBron James has been.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
I had a feeling
I heard
that might
LeBron. I heard LeBron, and I just hit the buzzer.
Oh, did someone say LeBron?
Reflexively.
Did you say LeBron? Who said LeBron?
Sorry. That's really on Justin for putting a LeBron question at the end.
That's fair.
He's been suspended for punching, fined for an obscene gesture, and criticized for having some Pacers fans kicked out of a game. I should have let you finish that. I'm sorry.
Was this a good or bad week for the King?
It's a neutral week. Because for a lot of guys, you would look at this and go, well, at least he kept his name in the headlines. But he doesn't need to do that. He's already a headline constantly. The obscene gesture was funny, and I'm sorry if it offended anyone, but I don't give a crap about that. It was funny. The fans who he had kicked out of a game apparently said, I hope your son dies in a car crash. So I'm okay with him saying, yeah, can you get these obnoxious fans out of here?
Yeah,
and I wish players would actually do that more, because the level of what fans think is acceptable to do and say to players on the field or on the court has gotten really out of control. So I think there should be more of that.
Yeah.
The punching,
The punch.
that's not a great look, but also he's got a, 18-year history in the NBA of not doing stuff like this. So I think you can probably kind of at least go, okay, first offense, that was a bad thing, but we can move on from it. And honestly, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the way that former Washington Husky Isaiah Stewart reacted afterwards really overshadowed the punch, because he turned into a crazy person.
Yes, I was going to say the punch led to one of the funniest videos we've seen this year, so I'm almost okay with it.
I couldn't stop laughing.
Isaiah Stewart's like, no, I'm good, I'm calm, I'm calm. Psych! 3 different times in that video.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I can say it's hilarious because nobody was actually hurt,
Yeah.
and it didn't escalate too far out of hand. So that's what kept it hilarious, is nobody got hurt, and so we can laugh at the ridiculousness of
And
it.
all of the little things, like Russell Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan being LeBron's bodyguards, Russell Westbrook putting his dukes up, Isaiah Stewart literally taking out staff members on his way to try to, trucking people like Marshawn Lynch in a beast mode run trying to get to LeBron.
He broke 6 tackles.
Yeah, he did. It was amazing.
All right, what do you think about the college football playoff rankings? Because I honestly, when I saw Michigan beat up on Ohio State, I was like, oh, crap. They're going to put Ohio State and Michigan ahead of Cincinnati.
I'm nervous about it because of the same reason I was nervous last week. Because I was like, okay, well, Michigan had a good win. The playoff committee is going to do the thing that they do. Well, let's forget all about the resume and everything that actually happened this season. We just think Michigan's better. And I thought they were going to put Michigan in that 4th spot. They didn't, but they could now.
Yeah.
Because it turns out Michigan is better. I mean, then
Well,
people thought they were.
Michigan's going to be in it. So to me,
Yeah.
it's the Ohio State or Oklahoma State question that are the most concerning.
You don't think Notre Dame? What do you think about
Aren't
that?
you worried Bama could get back in with a win next week?
Bama's in.
Bama's already in.
Sorry.
Bama almost lost to Auburn, though,
Georgia.
and that would have made things. If Bama had lost to Auburn,
See, that's
that would have made things really interesting.
You don't think that Bama will drop after that loss to, or that after that win over Auburn?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, and I
See,
think
that's
even if they
frustrating to
lose to
me.
Georgia, unless they lose by 40 points to Georgia, I think they're going to be in no matter what.
That's frustrating to me because if you're going to say, well, this team hasn't played, this team's, I mean, they've looked good, but they haven't played anybody, then you have to pay attention to the teams that are not looking good.
No, you don't.
I mean, you should.
Not if you're the
You
college
should
football playoff
pay attention
committee.
to
Do
teams that
whatever
are
you
not
want.
looking good.
Andrew, they're the SEC. We all know that every SEC team is just better than everybody,
It's like-
including Vanderbilt.
It's like watching football in color.
I will say this. I think we get out of the 4-team playoff if Alabama gets left down. It will happen. It will happen.
That's a good point.
Yes,
a good
but
point.
no, my concern is the 2 teams that are playing their championship games, Oklahoma State and Michigan. If they both lose, then I think Cincy could be in real trouble, because I could see Michigan and Ohio State being back in there, and then that's going to be a problem. And then Oklahoma's mercifully out, but. Yeah, I think the most optimistic one I saw right now was Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma State, and Cincy. with Alabama on the outside, which I'm really hoping for because I hate the 14 playoff with a passion.
It's brutal. Yeah.
It's weird to think, though, that Oklahoma State could jump from 7-4 over a team that just won by 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
And like the Notre Dame thing, I think the one saving grace that Cincinnati has is that they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So even though the committee has proved that that's not 100%, they still have that. Like they're undefeated and they handed Notre Dame their one loss.
Yeah.
So it would be, if Notre Dame jumped Cincinnati, it would be insane.
Oh my gosh.
But at least they're going to be looking for every possible argument. The only thing with Oklahoma State is that that's not like a traditional national power. So if it was Oklahoma, I would be more worried. But it's Oklahoma State, which is kind of a second tier thing. So
That
like
makes sense.
to me, this whole thing is all a popularity contest. So they're going to be looking for, how can we make sure Alabama gets in? How can we make sure Ohio State gets in? You know, those are the ones, but there's very few programs like that I feel like they're going to be trying to shimmy in no matter what.
You know how upset I would be if Oklahoma State, the team that robbed my team of the colors, gets in there. I mean, you have the same acronym already. You couldn't have picked different colors.
And I heard that
So much so that so much so. Apparently, I'm from the northern Midwest right now. So much so that the broadcaster during the Oregon State-Oregon game yesterday literally went, Oklahoma State with the first down. And I'm like, oh, you have got to be kidding me.
Speaking of Oklahoma State robbing Oregon State, I heard Barry Sanders actually was trying to commit to Oregon State, and he made a mistake and got the wrong OSU. But he just was like, meh, I'll just play here.
Same colors.
Yeah.
Interesting note, assistant coach for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Jason McIndoe, former Aberdeen Bobcat.
Oh,
Washington
nice. I
State
didn't know
Cougar
that.
lineman.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So congratulations to him.
A Bobcat and a Cougar?
Yep.
That's a good
and
combo.
Former Seattle Seahawk.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 Bobcats in the running to get into the college football playoff this year.
And the plot thickens.
All right. Anything else we want to get to from the 2-minute drill that you want to expand upon?
You want to talk about LeBron?
Do you want? No, I think we talked enough about LeBron.
Okay, well.
I'm surprised your dismissal of the Gonzaga. Like, when did you?
He just
get
doesn't
this
want to talk
vitriol
about college
against Gonzaga?
basketball.
I don't hate Gonzaga, but I really, really, really wanted them to beat Duke.
Oh, okay, so you're upset with
I
them
was
at the moment.
very disappointed, especially after the way they completely annihilated UCLA, which was supposed to be one of the best teams in the country. And I have been of the opinion that this Duke team is good, but a little overrated. And then in this game, Gonzaga had no answer for Paulo Ranchero or whatever his name is. I'm probably getting that a little bit wrong, but they couldn't guard him. And also, Chet Holmgren's cool and he's good, but he looks like if you touch him, he'll break, and if you blow on him, he'll fall over.
Is that the 7-foot, 190-pound
Yeah,
kid?
it's Kevin Durant. He looks exactly like Kevin Durant did in college. Do you guys not remember that?
I
Oh,
heard
no,
somebody on the radio say that Kevin Durant weighed 30 more pounds than him.
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say
he was
Kevin
210.
Kevin Durant was super
He's
thin.
190, so that'd be 20 more pounds.
Oh, okay.
Kevin
Wow.
Durant is super thin, but I remember that being a talking point while Durant was in college, but I never felt the same way watching him as I did with Holmgren, like
Really?
watching him play.
Oh, I felt
he
the same
looks
way.
so much smaller
Yeah.
to me, but that could just be
He is a freshman,
the
right?
me
Yeah.
misremembering the past.
Just a baby.
The thing I like about him is he boxes out every shot that goes up, which surprised me because I thought when I saw his highlight videos, everything, I thought he was going to hang around to the outside, not try hard in the paint, but he actually works in the paint.
He can
So,
handle the ball and drive to the basket too, which is, I mean, he has a very wide skill
thought-
set for his
I
size.
thought Gonzaga just made dumb turnover after dumb turnover in that game. Like, I watched like the late game highlights, but it's like every possession, and there were so many times where Timmy just got himself caught in trouble and either threw up a bad shot or straight up threw the ball away, and Timmy usually doesn't do that, so I was a little surprised with that.
That's what I was wondering, if this could be a blessing for Gonzaga to get a loss early
So they
and
don't have
and
that all
get
year.
well, not just the pressure, but also maybe get a slap in the face early in the season. Like, do you want to lose more? Stop it.
Yeah,
I have no
Banchero.
idea.
Banchero.
Paulo Banchero. My bad. Not Ranchero.
Okay.
Is there a way that they don't make it into the West Coast Conference tournament?
The Gonzaga?
Yeah.
You mean into the NCAA?
No, into their conference tournament. They're going to win their conference tournament, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
This game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my
That's a fair
thought.
point.
Is that maybe it's better to lose early
Yeah.
and
Or
not
it's actually better
feel-
than that to just win
Yeah.
all your games.
Yeah.
Personally.
maybe. But that hasn't been working for them, is all I'm saying.
It doesn't matter how good Gonzaga is because they'll only be good enough to make it to the Final Four and maybe make it to a championship game, and they will never win one ever, ever, ever.
That's
no
what
matter
they-
what.
that's what
They
they-
can have the number one recruiting class and all the talent in the world like they did last year, and they will never win one.
Is he always this bitter?
Yes.
I'm clipping
Okay,
that just in case.
You know what? I was gonna rebut that, but let's just go. Let's just go to Justin's favorite
Is
part
that
of the
like
show.
because I was being a butt, so you have to rebut
I
it?
have to rebut it.
Yeah.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
So I've been feeling Stump Daniel, brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz, by the way. Thank you for that sponsorship. I've been feeling like we've been way too sportsy lately.
Oh no.
So Daniel and I made a challenge against each other last week that he thought was a joke and I took seriously.
Uh-oh.
That we would go head to head in Avatar the Last Airbender trivia.
I knew I should have done some research.
Ian's disappointed. He wanted some sports. He wanted some sports questions.
I've been watching this segment and have dreamed of sitting here ready to mock Daniel relentlessly.
You'll have to join us again sometime.
I will.
Welcome to the core of Stump Daniel, which is Justin disappointing everyone possible.
I would say it's more than the core of Stump Daniel. It's like my theme on the show. How can I disappoint people the most? So I've got some Avatar the Last Airbender trivia for you, Daniel, and I didn't go with any Legend of Korra because when we talked last week, you hadn't finished the series yet. You finished the series now, but for me, I just stayed with the original, the OG Last Airbender series.
Oh crap.
Question number 1.
I think
What is the name of the board game that Uncle Iroh loves to play?
Pai Zhao?
Ooh, you're so close. It's actually Pai Sho. Sorry, Daniel. I can't even give you 50% credit for that. Which character from the show was secretly the Blue Spirit?
Oh, that was Zuko.
Zuko, that is correct.
Okay, I got one. I feel so much better now. I was really worried I was gonna be shut out.
They're going to get a little tougher as we
Oh
go.
no.
Which air temple is Aang originally from? Northern, Southern, Eastern, or Western?
I should know this.
Yeah, you should.
Northern.
Ooh, I'm sorry, that's not correct. It's the Southern Air Temple. The Northern Air Temple was where they went, where there was all the new technology and people
Right.
being able to fly around with the
Right.
air currents and stuff.
Yeah.
Which of Azula's friends has a special ability as a chi blocker?
I have to remember the names.
Yes.
It's almost like I said I could do trivia or something. I don't remember their names at all. Not one bit.
You don't remember? Ty Lee
Yeah, that.
is the answer to the question. May is the one who dated Zuko.
Yeah, I vastly overstated my knowledge.
You seem so
I
confident.
know.
What is the name of the sinister spirit, also known as the Face Stealer?
That episode was so creepy.
Super creepy.
So creepy.
You
Yeah, I
meet
don't
up with a
remember-
spider-looking spirit.
with like
in a-
different faces. changing. Ah, that
Super
was-
faces that were stolen from people.
Yeah.
What did they have afterwards?
No face.
I don't like that. That's
Just
that's
empty face.
You should lead with that.
What was the name of the spirit, Daniel? It's Ko. Bad job by you.
Terrible answer.
What was the name of the spirit who guarded the spirit library, and what form did he take?
I can't remember the name, but it was an owl.
Okay. But you don't remember the name.
I don't remember the name.
Wan Shi Tong.
Yeah, okay, there's no way I was remembering.
How did you not get that?
Yeah, this was so it's been a while since we've had something like this, and I don't like it.
So am I to understand that he fancies himself something of an authority on this show?
You should have heard him last week. He felt very confident about challenging me in trivia about this show.
Yep.
And what's going to happen now is, Daniel, you're going to go home and tell your wife about all these questions you missed. And she's going to be like, how did you not get that?
Yes.
Which also is going to happen is my daughter, who watches this podcast, by the way,
Okay.
and loves Avatar the Last Airbender, is going to watch it, and she's going to mock you. Really.
I would like a recap of that.
I will.
Okay.
I will let her know, and she will watch it, and she'll probably get all of them right.
Oh, yes, she will.
Daniel, what great weapon did Azula and the Fire Nation soldiers use in an attempt to break through Ba Sing Se's walls?
A drill.
A giant steam-powered drill is correct.
Oh, so I get it for just saying drill? Cool.
Well, that's essentially what it was.
Okay,
It was a
good.
giant drill.
And you pronounced drill correctly.
Yeah.
So
I like the board game.
What is the ragtag team of child rebels assembled by Jet to wage guerrilla warfare against the Fire Nation soldiers called?
They had a name?
Yes! By the way, I tested all of these questions out on Angel, and she got pretty much every single one.
It's just hers.
Do you want to throw a guess out?
Not one that's not going to sound totally stupid. It reminded me of, like, the whole, like, Robin Hood thing, but
You think they're the Lost Boys?
That's Peter Pan.
that's Peter Pan. But that was, they were
The
either
Merry
Lo-
Men? Was
I
it
was
the
thinking
Merry
they were Merry
Men?
Men or Lost Boys, but I don't think they were actually called the Lost Boys. I don't remember them having a name, to be honest. Like, this is the one where This is the first one where I'm like, I don't remember ever hearing that. Like, actually. So, no, I don't even
It's a very literal name. Freedom Fighters was the name of their group. Bad job by you. What is the name of the beach where Zuko, May,
Oh my
Azula,
gosh.
and Ty Lee face themselves in the most boring episode of the entire series?
episode.
There was so many feelings.
That was like the teen drama episode of
Yeah,
the
it
show.
totally was.
Yeah.
Although we did get one of the best quotes out of that episode, because that was when Azula was trying to convince that boy that they could be the most powerful couple in all the Fire Nation.
Yeah. And then what was the quote?
No, it was like then the boy kind of did the anime thing, the blinky thing, and then like scooted away.
Yes.
Like that was too intense for him.
Yeah.
coming on too strong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ember Island. Bad job by you, Daniel.
Dude, I'm doing so bad at this, I can't even make it entertaining.
You've got 2 out of 9, and there's 1 more left.
That's just 2 more than I got. I don't watch the show.
Would you say that he's in the duck zone right now?
Oh!
If you don't get this one, you'll be in the duck zone. For sure. Right now, I'd say you're in the husky zone. Which character's voice actor also played a recurring role on Arrested Development? This can't be news to you.
What if it is? Can I get a hint? Like, is it a main character in Arrested Development?
It is not one of the star characters, but it's a
Okay.
recurring role that's in the show quite a bit.
Is it the guy who plays Tobias?
Ooh, I'm sorry, it is not. It's actually Mae Whitman, who plays Anne Veal on Arrested Development.
Egg?
George Michael's boyfriend, who also dates other
Girlfriend.
who also dates other people on the show. She is the voice of Katara.
What?
Yeah, Annabelle.
Does she
is the
ever
voice of
say
Katara.
anything
Her?
in
Her?
in Arrested Development? Does she have any speaking lines in Arrested
Oh
Development?
yeah, she
okay.
does. Well, at
I don't-
first she doesn't speak very much, but then when they get to the point where like they're doing the whole "Are George Michael and Anne gonna get married?" and then they do the vow renewal for George Senior and all.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff. She has a
Right,
larger
right.
speaking role as the show goes on.
That's right.
That's all, Daniel. You got 2 out of 10.
You know what's... That's terrible.
Yeah, you didn't even. There were so many that you didn't even guess on. I didn't get to use my catchphrase.
I know.
Terrible guess.
I know. I'm sorry. That's brutal. Like I said, I was so bad at that, I couldn't even make it entertaining. I'm disappointed that I didn't know that was who was Katara's voice, because usually when I'm watching shows, I'll recognize a voice and I'll be like, oh, I gotta make sure that's who that is. Like in Legend of Korra, the guy. Have you seen Great News?
Yeah.
The guy who's like typecast as like hilarious news anchor. He was in that show, and his character was amazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but sorry.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but I also can't remember his name.
Yeah. Anyway, he doesn't usually have big parts.
Well, hopefully Ian's daughter enjoyed that.
Yeah, and
I'm getting emotional. Not gonna lie.
Good timing. It's been a while since we had a really good stump Daniel where you actually got stumped.
Yeah.
In a way that made you feel bad. Because even lately we've been having all these ones where when you get them wrong, it's like, should I have known that?
Yeah. I should have known those.
Okay.
Well, let's get to the headline part of our show, the reason why we have a guest, to talk about this Monte girls soccer team that makes it all the way into the Final Four. And people every now and then will be like, oh, really? We're doing soccer games now for when we're talking about broadcasts? And I'm like, you know what? When a team makes it to the Final Four, that's kind of when we've, at least for me, because that's when I covered some baseball games. We don't usually do baseball, but we had a Hoquiam team a while back make it to the Final Four. Then I was like, man, it would be nice if we could do fast pitch, especially me and you have had that conversation a lot before, especially when we had Monte, Hoquiam, and Elma all in the state tournament. How we would construct that would be so hard to do.
When you go over to tournament ball and you've got 4 games going on at the same time, and then you've got to just hope that you get these 2 teams advancing into the semifinals or the quarterfinals or the championship round. You end up having to hope that one team loses, maybe.
Yeah,
for something to happen in a certain way. So yeah, fast pitch would be a difficult one to do. I think it'd be fun to do.
I feel like you could do it like red zone style.
It's kind of like you do it.
Yeah.
You'd have to have like someone watching and run over, and it's time for a scoreboard update. Daniel, go.
Yeah.
Exactly. But all of that to get into, we had a girls soccer team from Montesano go all the way into the Final Four, first time in program history, and it just happens to be the team that you know probably the most about.
Yeah, I've been watching the team for 10 years, at least the senior class for 10 years, and it was something to see. It was eye-opening. I will say that much. It was a great celebration of Monte soccer and just the game of soccer, the beautiful game as it is called, and when it's played well, it really is something, and it was really neat to see that. Then when you saw the quality of the teams that Montesano was going up against, you see the schools that treats soccer the way Monte treats fast pitch, where there are kids that play it year-round that do nothing but play soccer. And you saw a couple of those. Livy Moore, I think she probably ended up being the player of the tournament, if there was such a thing, she's committed to the University of Oregon. They've got a player that La Center has that plays for the Portland Thorns, the ladies' professional league, their developmental team.
Wow.
So yeah, it's they went up against some teams that 2 of their losses were against teams that were led by players that are just otherworldly skills. And it was kind of, as I talked with Fidel Sanchez, the head coach, afterwards, and he said, we see what we need to get to now. Those are our aspirations now, to get to be as good as they are.
Wow.
So.
My big question really is, I know the construction of this team is there was a ton of seniors, but it also was led in large part by league MVP Michaela Stanfield. And she led the team in goals and was huge through a lot of the season. And the one thing that seems to be a recurring theme on a lot of the social media posts that I've put up is, hey, don't forget about Jaden Morrison. Like, hey, don't, you can't just go out, like, Michaela's great. You can't just go out mentioning Michaela without throwing Jaden Morrison in there. So I have heard Jaden Morrison described as the driving force of Montesano's offense. So I was really curious what you think about how it's more just about the roles that the kids play. Like, which one, can you kind of describe the difference between what Michaela does and what Jaden does and how they play off of each other so well?
I'd say that Michaela drives the middle and takes a lot of passes and shoots and scores, and Jaden drives the outside, and she's just shoots from ridiculous angles and makes her shots. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was Riverside game or the Lakeside game. She had 2 goals in that were just no. I'm sorry. It was the Tenino game in districts where they won 4-0. She fit the ball into just a shoebox size spot where it had to be there, or else the keeper was going to save her or it was going to go wide. And she managed to make it. So she did that better than I think anyone else on the team. Michaela took passes and was able to control the ball, take one touch, and then shoot from the middle better than anyone else on the team. So I just think it was kind of an inside-outside game. Jaden from the outside on the wing, and then Michaela right down the middle. And then towards the end of the season, Paige Leisherness really developed into a scorer. They'd move her up from her defensive midfielder position, and she was just, she's 6 foot. She had 3 header goals, I think, during the last few weeks of the season. So, yeah, they developed a nice little trio of scorers there. And then when they really needed something spectacular, Bethany Henderson had 3 direct corner kick goals called Olympicos. 3 of them that found the net.
Wow,
so, yeah,
that's crazy.
And the crazy thing about that is Bethany and Michaela are both back next year. So, yes, this is a senior-dominated team. But Riley Timmons, their keeper, who, quite frankly, I think is going to be an all-league keeper in the next couple of years. She's back. They've got a couple of really good defenders who are coming up. Carson Wintrip, one of them, who went to the state team, got called up to the state team. Their 2 midfielders, Vanna Prom and Jaden King, who you know from basketball, are going to be back. Annabelle Estrada, Bethany Henderson, Michaela Stanfield, all of them will be back. And then coming up from the JV ranks, Addison Potts is just a tremendous little spark plug forward. I don't know whether they play her in the middle. I don't know whether they play her on the outside, but she dribbled the ball through defense with skill and the awareness that did not look like a freshman at times. She got some development to go, but this is not a team that is, okay, the senior class is gone, it's rebuilding time. They're just going to reload. I mean, they're going to do what Montesano does. They're going to reload.
And talking about that senior class, the development that you've seen up through the years, I'm trying to think, do we want to expand it out to like the whole 10-year journey that we watched, or do we want to shrink it into this year, what the journey was like for this team development-wise? I don't know if you want to start with 10 years ago when you saw these kids starting to play. Could you see that this was kind of a special class of kids coming up, or did it take until they got into high school?
I'd say until they got into middle school. I think when they went to back-to-back state championship games in rec ball, you had a feeling that once they got up and were playing at the high school level, that they were going to be a very special group of kids. And then you saw just how good they were when they were mixed in. When Brooke Streeter and Zoe Leisherness were there last year, and they won the first ever district championship for Montesano. This year they were the leaders of the team, and they ended up being the first team that go into the state semifinals and bringing a trophy home. So I think that you knew that there was going to be that cohesiveness and that bond of playing together for 10 years. But then when you saw them, you knew that some of these kids were going to be good. Some did not advance beyond how good they were as rec players. Others got better when you put them around better players. I'd say that this is one that's going into this season. I think the district championship was definitely something that we felt was in their grasp. Came up 1 goal short on that one there, but then to go in and play the way they did against Lakeside, a good solid team, win 3-1, and then just play a mentally tough game against Tenino in that quarterfinal game that ended up going to penalty kicks. To know that the other team was basically going to drop back 6 defenders and play to get to PKs, and to see the mental toughness that they had to withstand that and play for 90 minutes of knowing that in the last 10 minutes knowing that the last goal could be the end of their season, and then to get to PKs, something that Tenino has done 3-4 times I think in the playoffs the last 3 years. To get there, I think that showed the mental toughness that this team had.
And weirdly, the same thing happened to the Sounders. Like their next right. game. After you told me how Tenino played that game, I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting strategy." Yeah. The Sounders then got knocked out of the playoffs their next game by a team that did the same thing and then won in PKs.
Yeah, it's mind-numbingly boring to watch because but it's a legitimate skill. It's like in boys basketball when that Hoquiam championship team, when LaCenter just basically stalled
The
the whole game because there was no shot clock at that
Or
point.
is it more like the shift in baseball and we should hate it?
Exactly. Oh, I despise it, but it's a legitimate. And so as long as the rules allow it, it's a legitimate way to play the game. I think it's kind of gutless, but it's make them play defense, and then Tenino actually had a couple of chances to get goals. They had better shots on goal than Montesano did. And luckily, just missed. They hit the crossbar once, and had another one that Riley Timmons was able to corral. But yeah, it was that game. I think was the one that really showed just how tough this team was mentally, that they were able to hang in there on that.
I think we've got a lot of names. You've been able to go through and kind of list a lot of what the roster was, who the big impact players are.
Right.
Were there any kind of like unsung heroes from this team that didn't get the attention? Like Timmons got some attention, Michaela, Jaden Morrison getting some attention. Who were the kids on this team that you felt like were having big impacts but not getting the headlines?
Maddie Campbell, Sophie Kupka, and Emma Salazar.
Okay.
The three backline defenders. The only reason that Riley Timmons was not an all-league goalkeeper is because she didn't see that many shots, and it was because of them. And then you had Paige Leishiness in there as the fourth defender. I mean, good luck. And they had a rough go of it up at state because they were looking at attackers, the likes of which they hadn't seen before. And they were outscored in those final games 10-1. But for the majority of the season, that backline defense was as close to impregnable as you were gonna see. They were absolutely amazing. And as I said, Riley Timmons, did not get all league keeper, I think, just because she didn't face as many shots as Coonrad did over in Elma, and it's well deserved that she got it. That was a great story for the Elma team. I mean, you talk about what Montesano's done. The Elma soccer team, they arrived a year early. They're young, and with Betta Valentine on that team, they're going to be solid. That's that rivalry between, it used to be Tenino and Montesano. It's going to be Montesano and Elma for the next probably 3-4 years, I'd say. But yeah, that defense that Monte had was absolutely incredible for most of the season. I think they had a 4 or 5 game scoreless streak. Where they shut out all of their opponents, and then it was because of that back line.
And this is a team that, I mean, we've mentioned that you've known this team for so long, and that's because your daughter is in this age group, and she's played with them all the way up through. And it's got to be hard to then go to, even though it's at the state tournament. I mean, Justin and I have gone to games, and we've gone to state tournaments, and we've seen other teams that have their last game before the state tournament. Justin's going to face this in a couple of years. I've got a long way to go. How in the world did you survive and then also be on air during your daughter's last high school soccer game?
I don't know. I think that was maybe the second time that I cried on air. If it wasn't obvious, then I guess I did my job on that. No, the first time was when Braden Dorman and Sam Winter played their last game for Monte, and someone I had just known since he was 6-7 years old. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of rough to see. And when Paige came off the field, actually, honestly, Issa was out there playing for most of the last 20 minutes of the game. When Vanna Prom got hurt, she came in and played the most of the rest of the way. So, but it was watching the seniors individually come off, and when Paige came off and Fidel went up to her, and he just put his arms out and put his arms around her, you could just see her. And you just knew what was happening.
It's the sync.
Yeah.
When kids get to the embrace, and then there's like a sync in their whole body. That's the moment where that's emotional to watch.
Yeah,
I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah,
and we've all been there. You can't. I told Issa before the game, you don't know what this is going to feel. Oh, I'll be fine, Dad. You don't know what it feels like, and I can't prepare you for it other than to say it's going to suck. So, and sure enough, we got off the air and coming out, and I'm sitting there with my back turned, putting gear away, and I heard my wife, who was sitting with me, say hi, Bug, and I turned around, and she was just, you could just see the tears running down her face, and that was rough. That was rough to see. So. Good luck.
I'm not ready for it. No. I got emotional watching Elma's drill team come off the field for the last time earlier this season. But for me, it's like I just want to constantly remind people, like, the reason it's so emotional is it's not a 1-year journey.
No.
Like, these kids who achieve at the high level of these sports, many of them have been playing together for years.
Yep.
sacrificing their free time, working out, extra practices, lots of extra mental preparation, and that's how you get to that level. So it's easy to just look at it and go, oh, that's sad. They're playing their last game. This is not a 1-year trip. No. This is not sad. This is not difficult to deal with because of what happened in this little 3-month stretch. It's difficult because these girls have been probably doing this together since they were 10 years old, 8 years old?
Younger than that, 7, 8 years old in some cases, yeah.
This is the journey of a decade.
Yep.
So that's when you start thinking about it in the big picture. That's what makes it so hard for me.
Yeah, it is brutal, and we see it every year, Daniel. We see it every year when a football team or a basketball team walks off the court for the last time. We saw it this year with the soccer team when they went off, and it was tough also watching when Monte beat Tenino. They've played against that team for 7, 8 years, and to watch those players just collapse on the field and knowing that was the end of their careers.
Yeah.
And it was the end of that great rivalry it started off when they were Lightning, the Montesano Lightning and the Tenino Cobras in rec ball. They played.
Ooh, Cobras, that's a cool team name.
They were good. They were good. I mean, they dominated Montesano in rec ball in rec soccer.
I think Lightning could beat a Cobra though. Like if a Cobra got struck by
lightning. You're going to Mike Leach this, aren't you? And you just made me bring up the unholy names. So darn you for that. But I don't know. No, but it was neat to. It was, and I did a post on that that said this is how it had to end. This is how one of these teams' last game had to be against each other, Tenino and Montesano. So that was kind of the high water mark when they beat Tenino. And there was a little bit of. This is the first time they're there, and they're happy to be there. And then they went out and just went up against these 2 juggernaut teams. So it was disappointing in the way it ended, but definitely a kind of a program building moment. I think that Fidel and Gary and Rick and Chris will be able to build on the coaches there. But you look at the losses that they had this year. They lost to Kashmir in week 1, which was most of the season was the number 1 team in the state. They lost to La Center, who won the district championship. They lost to Clajoya in the last game, who was the number 1 seed in the tournament, and they lost to Deer Park, who eventually won the championship. I'd say it's 4 quality losses.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
And to go with 17 wins, and district championship last year, league championship this year. I think 3 league championships for this class, 1 district championship, and a 4th place finish. That's a solid foundation to build on.
Absolutely.
Before we let you go, you mentioned Fidel a couple of times. Can you talk about what he's meant to the program and building this program? Because it seems like he's kind of the driving force that has turned this into a perennial league title contender.
Yeah, he did it at Hoquiam. He took those Hoquiam boys teams to the championship tournament a couple of times. I think they finished 4th place there too. Back when Taj Malone was the goalkeeper. Good luck scoring on that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it became clear that he was going to be the coach, I know that we as parents were all excited. That this was a guy who got it and who had that passion not only for soccer but for Montesano, and he's been a critical part of building this team, and I think we'll continue to do so. I think that the coaching for Monte is good. They were the all-league coaching staff. They actually do that. They have the coaching staff of the year, and Monte's coaching staff got it, I believe, a couple of times that they've got it in the last 3-4 years. So yeah, he and his staff have been really solid at coming up with different offensive strategies, and sometimes they'll press the forwards, sometimes they'll press the midfielders. Really does a good job of growing and developing. I think that's the thing there. This is going to be a multi-year thing. This isn't 1 year, 1 class, and then they go into a downward spiral for years. I think they've got 3-4 years of cycling players through. The reserves always get to play. The JVs get called up to play, and they get that experience. Sound like another team from Montesano that we know, and because of that, I think it becomes a cycle of players leaving, but other players coming up and taking their way. And I keep on doing this now. So.
Yeah, when you're just on the radio, you can do whatever you want with your hands, and it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But no, it was a fun year. It was a fun year, and I'll tell you, watching the school turn out and bid them farewell. The Monte send-offs that they do, watching the people pack the intersection down there at Main and Pioneer, and then watching the school, the band come out, the cheerleaders come out, the entire school empty out. Like, forget about classes. Yeah, we got Thanksgiving coming up anyway. Who cares? Go outside and stand out there and then root the team on and say leave. It's always neat to see. So it was a new kind of awareness of the sport for Montesano. Montesano is a fast pitch and it is a football town. Basketball is big there, but to see soccer get its just desserts and to get the attention it deserved, I think it was a really special few months, and for this class it was a pretty special 10 years.
I don't think we can.
I think that's a phenomenal recap. Yeah. It's better than what Daniel and I were doing for the last few weeks. Going, Monty soccer good. Michaela, Jaden. Fourth place.
I didn't get to mention schmat tricks, and that's something that I've taken from you guys here. Is that what is that? Is that the 4 goals? That's 4 goals.
Schmat trick.
And, and you guys just tried to come up with a 6-goal one time. Did you ever succeed?
I'm sure it was a catastrophe.
It probably came up with it. Not anywhere near as 2 out of 10 in Airbender trivia.
God dang it.
Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really
me.
glad that we were able to have that recap of what was the most successful season that one of our local teams had in our high school sports this season. So Ian is unfortunately going to leave us during the commercial break, but don't worry because Daniel and I will be back. We've got Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week, and we're going to wrap up with the talk that we've been putting off for a really long time.
Yep.
Yeah, little daddy ball convo.
Commercial break.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Domashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Domashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit domashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
And we are back. The Scrimmage, Daniel Hargrove, Justin Domashevitz, our producer Andrew Gross, and we are currently bidding farewell to Ian Cope, who was our special guest that watched me stump Daniel and then gave us a very thorough, solid recap of Monte Girls Soccer fourth place state team.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. And we're kind of in a dead space for high school sports now.
Yep.
So I'm glad that he was able to come in here and give us some of that. We're going to do a short basketball preview, but before we do that, we're going to do our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week. And this week, largely because there really were no sports that I could find any results from, we have a very deserving Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week. It's going to be former Aberdeen Bobcat, current Cincinnati Bearcat, Joel Dublanko, who had a team-high 10 tackles and a team-high 1.5 sacks in Cincinnati's win over East Carolina on Friday. Huge game for Joel. He currently leads Cincinnati and is 37th in the entire nation in tackles with 99. And that's with, I would like to point out, there was a couple games early in the year when Cincinnati was up by a ton, and so they were mixing in some of the younger players. Joel is a super senior. He's in his 5th year. He had that extra COVID eligibility year. That's where he's playing. So he was giving way to some of the younger players to get experience for portions of these games, and still has 99 tackles and still is 37th in the nation in tackles. But 1.5 sacks, huge impact for the team.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And if you're wondering what's next for the Bearcats, they are number 4, and they will play their conference championship game, the AAC conference championship game, against 24th ranked Houston. Houston is 11-1 on the season. Cincinnati's 12-0, and Houston's only loss came in week 1. So Houston hasn't lost in a really long time. So that should be a pretty good battle for Cincinnati next week.
And hopefully one that will finally garner some respect, hey, they played a good team. Because, geez, it has been brutal to watch the comments. Oh, doesn't matter. Cincinnati's undefeated. They've only played poop. And it's just like, give me a break, man. Going undefeated in football is hard, even if even if your schedule's not good, to not have one down game is exceptionally hard, and that's why in college football it always amazes me when a team goes undefeated through that national championship, even though that's almost what you have to do in college football to get to the national championship, which is, to me, it's just brutal, especially if you do play in one of the bigger conferences where there isn't a down game, you know?
I think also
and
because
I'm taking the SEC out of it because, again, Vanderbilt is always a down game.
That's true.
And there's multiple teams in that conference that are just terrible.
That's true. And I think also because I think Cincinnati...
Well, Daniel, they're in the SEC, though.
Oh, so they're good. Right?
Yeah.
Cincinnati, throughout the course of the year, has not gotten the credit for the Notre Dame win at Notre Dame the way they should have, because the way Notre Dame started was winning one-score games over bad teams. So people were looking at Notre Dame going, oh, this is a down year. They may not be that good. Well, they've totally turned their season around since the Cincinnati loss. Obviously that's their only loss, so it's not like they had something huge to turn around, but they were playing close games and eking out wins over bad teams, and now all of a sudden they're crushing everybody.
Yeah.
So I think Cincinnati needs to get more credit for winning a game at Notre Dame, which is a top 10 ranked team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a team that only has one loss.
Yeah. To Cincinnati.
Exactly.
But anyway, congratulations to Joel Dublanko
Yep.
for being our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week.
Another local update, kind of. Well, used to be local. Adam Bighill finished the regular season with 70 defensive tackles, which was the top for his team and 9th in the CFL. Bighill also had 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and a defensive touchdown. Adams Blue Bombers will have a break until December 5th when they play host to the West Division title game. So I'm assuming they had the bye, and now they're waiting to see who they're going to be playing.
Yeah, they were the number 1 team in the West. And the way it works in the CFL, because the divisions are so small, they just have the 2 seed out of the West plays the 3 seed, and then whoever wins that plays the top seed. Winnipeg was the top seed, so they got that first round bye, and if they win their game, they'll be in the Grey Cup championship game. So, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think I saw something on social media last week that Adam Bighill was named most outstanding defensive player of his team. So I think that was kind of a team award, but it was, posted out on Facebook and Twitter as official most outstanding defensive player for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
And we love Adam, so any updates we get about Adam, we will definitely pass them along.
For sure.
And, maybe we'll have a chance to watch him in another Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Because
he's already got 2 Grey Cup titles.
he's got 2 titles.
Yeah.
Has he been to another one and lost?
I don't
or
think
is this,
so.
is he undefeated?
I'm not sure, but I was thinking, as you guys were talking about Montesano soccer, is this the best that Montesano soccer has been? I mean, I know it's the girls' team now, but is it the best that Montesano soccer has been since Adam was here playing for the boys? Because I know they were really good then.
I'm not sure if they
I
ever
haven't
made
heard
it
a
even,
lot about him.
I heard a lot about him because of Adam. I'm not even sure. I know they didn't make it to the Final Four.
Okay, they didn't make it that far.
Yeah.
So, right on.
So I don't think, because we
Well,
were
the
talking
girls'
with
program is-
another friend that we have that played on some of those soccer teams. I'm pretty sure they always got knocked out by La Center, and that would have been more in like the district ranks, I think.
Okay.
But I'm not positive on that. We'll have to ask Jake about that. He would know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you should text him right now.
I'm not going to text him right now.
Okay.
Well, we can move on to our basketball preview.
Yeah.
It's going to be short and quick,
Yeah,
but we got a little bit of info about some of these local basketball teams.
Yeah, so mostly this is just a preview of like the games that I'm going to be covering this year, and I'm actually really excited about this schedule that I was able to come up with. And Justin, right off the bat, the first week of the season, Friday, December 3rd, if you can't make it to this game, you should be listening, because it's going to be the Monte girls.
I won't be there.
You're not coming? I told you, just tell Peyton. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Just tell Peyton, I'm going to miss your first varsity basketball game because I want to watch a girl I've never met.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is a Division I commit player.
It's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Raymond at Montesano, girls basketball, Kyra, Kira. I've heard it both ways. I'm going to say Kyra.
You're going to find out.
I think I'm the only one who said Kira.
Hopefully I find out before the game. Yeah, I'll find out before the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
At some point, you're going to have to track her down and talk to her, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Okay.
Be like, hey, we've talked about you constantly. Is that weird? Probably.
She'll be like, I'm sorry, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first game of the year. I'm really excited about that. And then Montesano's girls, I love their schedule because non-conference, they are playing some tough teams. They're playing Kings in the next game I'm going to be covering on December 7th. So 2 tough games right out the bat for a Monte girls team that has definitely shown to be a state contender for the last 7-8 years, and they have another solid team this year, even after losing one of my favorite players to graduation in Zoe Leishness.
Yeah, and they should be really good. They lost Zoe Leishness, but they do still have Paige Leishness, and she was the league MVP last year, so they'll have her returning. Also, McKinley Dalen has been really good for them. I think she's a junior this year.
Yeah, and she's back from injury.
She's
had injury problems the last couple of years, but I'm really excited and hoping that she can get a full healthy season in this year.
Right, and since we were just talking about soccer, we've already mentioned Michaela Stanfield, but Michaela, as a freshman last year, was really coming on at the end of the year, and I feel like she should have a pretty big impact on the team as well.
Yeah. And their defense is just ridiculous usually. So that's something I'm excited about. Head coach Mark Mansfield has an excellent squad to go with there, so we'll see how far that he can take him on that. And then the next game, December 16th, that is Myrtle Street Rivalry Week. So both Thursday and Friday, the 16th and the 17th, going to be covering Hoquiam and Aberdeen boys and girls. And this is a Hoquiam team that, I don't know, maybe I'm hoping I'm not a little too excited about, but the progress I saw them make last year under their new head coach, Kyle Bloomberg, really got me excited. So I'm really excited to see what Bloomberg can do. Also, what Michael Watkins, Lorton Watkins, that I forgot his name for a second, but also he broke out as one of the top scorers in the league last year, and so I'm excited to see what he can do as a junior, because he was just a sophomore last year when he broke out. So it's going to be really interesting. And then you look over on the girls' side, and both Aberdeen and Hoquiam have kind of been in rebuilding mode, and it seems like they're starting to get to that point where they have age groups that they've been able to work with since they've been a lot younger. And it seems like in basketball programs, unless you just have ridiculous talent to start out with, you almost have to get down to the ground with the youth programs and build it up from there. And I think that both Rachel Wenzel and Chad Allen have been doing a good job, even working together at some points, of getting youth basketball back into Grace Harbor and trying to build it up from there. And I think you're going to see it this year with both those teams.
And I'm just really excited that Chad Allen's back with Hoquiam because he was a Hoquiam girls coach before, and they had a good amount of consistent success there. And then he went and coached Grays Harbor College women's basketball and led them to an NWAC title one season. And now he's back in Hoquiam coaching girls basketball. And Chad's just a great dude and a really good basketball coach. And like you were mentioning, those feeder programs, like the programs that get kids playing before high school age, is something that not only is really important to him, but it's a great skill he has in getting these players to develop before they get into high school.
Yeah, and Rachel Wenzel has done a great job for Aberdeen as well. She has been a revelation to that basketball program. Then you look into the future a little bit more. I've got Elma games as well. And we're going to see new with Elma, both new with Elma and Montesano boys this year, Justin, with head coaching changes. We just found out that Matt Ferrier is the head coach for Elma basketball. I was really curious to see what they were going to come up with for that head coaching position. Everything I've heard, they should be excited about Matt Ferrier. He's a former Eagle, played for some great teams, state championship teams back in the day, has coaching experience, and seems like he's going to be a great fit. An Elma alum coming back. I mean, if you didn't know about their girls program, they also have an Elma alum coaching the girls program as well in Brandy Thomas. So 2 people that really care about Elma basketball are there coaching right now. And so when you get that kind of passion inserted in, usually it can lead to great things because I don't know, it's just that little bit of incentive. I'm not saying that any coach who goes in there isn't going to also be excited, but there's just a little added something when you can go back and coach your alma mater.
Yeah, and hopefully for Ferrier, he can build off of some of the progress that was made under Jeff Nemi. Nemi, I felt like, had really helped the team the program go from something that was kind of a bottom dweller and really build it up over the course of a few years into a real competitor. So hopefully Ferrier will be able to build from that. And you mentioned Monte boys basketball as well. It is an incredibly young team. The only senior on the varsity roster is going to be Caden Lovell. There's a handful of juniors, but most of them either played primarily JV last year or missed a lot of the season with an injury. The only two players that I can say confidently that you will know these players from last year are Caden Lovell and Trent Adams. Besides that, it's a mix of, guys like Tice Peterson. Sophomore Tice Peterson will mix in quite a bit. He played a lot of varsity minutes last year. Soren Cobb, who's about 6'8", another sophomore that we'll see a lot of time. And really 6 sophomores that are going to be on this regular varsity roster that are probably all going to be seeing some minutes in varsity action. So maybe a rebuilding year for Monte. Very, very young. Also, I'm kind of excited to see what Caden Lovell can do because when he was healthy last year, he was excellent.
Yeah, and also, even though they're sophomores, the size of that sophomore class is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, you got a 6'8" in 6'7", 6'8" in Soren. Tice is about 6 foot, and he plays like a wing or a guard. Camden Taylor is about 6'3". Gabe Bodwell is about 6'4". That's your sophomore class. They also have another sophomore who's about 6'4" that isn't playing basketball this year, but may come back in the future. The height on that and the size, because those are all big kids too, that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with on the inside for years to come.
Yeah, it almost sounds like the junior class for Aberdeen when you look at their football team. Like that's kind of what that sophomore class for Monte reminds me of. And that there's a decent amount of basketball players in that class for Aberdeen now too, for Mark Buckman to be able to get and hopefully mold into a playoff team there for the Aberdeen boys squad as well. But there's a couple of classes right now in Monte boys for that sophomore class, just the numbers you saw. And in football this year, how much of them started to become real contributors throughout this season as sophomores was impressive. But then you look at the Aberdeen boys team, I'm excited about their squad this year and see what Coach Buckman can do with that team as well. Kind of a mini breakdown. I wasn't able to get as much information, or I didn't. I'm going to claim new dad title on this one.
You got mommy brain.
And holiday and holiday week.
Right,
and,
mommy brain.
Yeah, so both of those things led to me not being able to dig in as much as I wanted to for the high school basketball preview. But the first couple weeks always bring so much into what's going to happen the rest of the way. And so I'm really excited to, at the beginning, cover some tough Monte girls matchups. And just looking at the teams that I'm covering, I would say if I had to pick a favorite to get into the state tournament, it would be that Monte girls team because, they're just loaded defensively. And then you add the scoring of Paige Leishernis and McKinley Dalen to that. And I think they're going to be really tough to beat.
Agreed. Yeah, I would say the teams that I've that we've discussed that I would say pinpointed as long-term competitive, like district tournaments and whatnot, is probably Monte girls and Hoquiam boys. I think that's probably where the most returning talent is. But, it's basketball season. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it's always going to be weird. And then when you get into the district tournament, a lot of these teams have size. I don't know what it is about boys basketball around this area, but it seems like, besides Soren Cobb, it doesn't feel like we have any giant basketball players.
It's been a while, too, since we had any, really tall players.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe that'll change. And I wondered if it was most people, but then I saw some B tournament players like Mossy Rock and Morton White Pass that just had some monsters down there. And I'm like, man, it's a good thing Hoquiam's not playing these teams. They're 6'8", 6'8", 6'5".
Yeah.
Anyway, that's total sidetrack. We're going to take a commercial break, get into the mailbag, and question we've been dodging for a long time coming up next.
At Ole Penn Real Estate, we have solidified our foundation on 4 core values. First, we continuously focus on growing our knowledge in the market and in our practices to bring the highest level of competency to our clients. Second, we provide a high level of integrity, compassion, and kindness in every aspect of our business. Third, we put the human element above business through humor, enthusiasm, and patience. And last but not least, we proactively respond to the needs of our clients. Our mission is to create a personal real estate experience, one person and one home at a time. With OliPen, it's personal.
How do you do 3?
How
So when
do
I
do
hold
three?
up 3 fingers,
I go like this.
you go like this. See, I
feel like this is normal.
the
feel
pink.
like-
You hold the pinky down, or you do like a OK sign.
I think the OK is normal for 3, right?
3.
How
I
do you
think
do it?
I learned to do it like this
with the pinky down.
with the pinky down,
So Andrew-
but I do it like this because it's easier.
See, but then when I do it like the way Andrew was doing it is like, okay, I feel like I kind of hold my index finger down below my thumb and kind of do this.
That's weird.
So I got the
Oh, that
pinky
makes
finger,
sense.
the ring finger, the middle
So
finger
not
up.
so much like the OK sign,
Right,
like this.
but yeah, like that.
So
but
I
Daniel,
go like-
you're holding the ring finger down?
Yeah, so the reason why I do this is so how do you do 2?
2. Yeah, index and middle. You do 2 like bunny ears?
Oh, that's the baseball thing,
It's-
isn't it?
it's the
'Cause, yeah,
baseball thing.
it's 2.
Oh, when I'm
two
playing...
way.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
When
You
I'm
never
playing
go-
softball, I go pinky and index finger.
You never go 2
That's a
outs.
good point.
And so for me, that since I
Yeah.
fully engulfed myself in baseball so much, it's always 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And I don't know why we ever did 3 because you never need to tell people that there's 3 outs.
You're
but
out.
It was, it was just kind of what I did.
That is interesting. That is interesting because I think I do it differently in softball and in regular life. I think if I'm holding up 2 outs, I go pinky and index
it's
finger.
2
But if
outs.
I'm ever telling anybody, no, 2 minutes, I go index finger and middle finger.
Yeah, it's weird.
So Daniel, what's third down?
Third down.
Okay.
I don't.
I just
third
wanted to
down-
see if you'd come up with something different. You'd be like, oh yeah, maybe not.
Do you, when you
Yeah.
do the 3, do you go hand forward or hand backward?
Oh, if I did it like that.
Yeah.
If I did it like that, I would think backward.
Yeah, because I think this is my normal. Like like I said, it's kind of like the OK, but I pin my index finger down behind my thumb,
Yeah.
and I do it backwards. So people are seeing the back of my hand. Middle finger, ring finger.
See,
pinky
everybody's
finger.
got to be confused about why we're talking about numbers right now. But it was because during the commercial, he said they have 4 core values. So we were like signing the numbers to each other.
This is a really interesting conversation.
fascinating.
I'm glad we're having it.
Yeah. What
Let's
about-
talk about the Mariners
How
trade.
do you do 5? Do you use the thumb? Or do you have to...
I do 3 on one hand, 2 on the other.
There you go. So just real quick about the Mariners, they did make a trade. They bring in it's kind of weird to say just real quick. It's just a little update when they traded for an all-star second baseman. But yet
Caitlin, my sister, wants to know what about these 3.
Ooh, middle finger, index finger, thumb.
I think she might be a psycho.
But how do you hold? Okay, so how do you hold down? Is it just you have to have enough coordination in your hand that you can hold down the pinky and the ring finger without?
Yeah.
So I think when I'm holding that up, my pinky's trying to come up.
Wow. You know, I have weird things with fingers about which ones I can hold down and up, but that's not one, as I almost yanked the headphones off the table. That's not one that I have trouble with, but I could see that, like, yeah, your fingers were shaking while you were doing
Yeah, it's hard for me.
Weird. Oh, you can do the Spock sign, though.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you should do 2. 2 outs, guys.
2 out.
2 outs.
2 away.
I'm struggling with the Spock sign on my right hand too. Weird.
Anyway, so
I think I have better dexterity on my.
My
left
wife
hand
says
than
that's
my
the
right.
correct way to do it in sign language. So apparently,
what is Spock hands?
I think she's talking about thumb, index, and middle finger. So
Oh.
this is 3 in sign language, apparently.
I would be bad at sign language because my pinky's still trying to come up.
Yeah, that one's straight. That's
I know.
Weird looking.
Yeah.
Do you have trigger finger?
So anyway, Mariners trade.
Yeah, they traded for an all-star, and yet everybody's like, eh.
An all-star second baseman.
Yeah, an all-star second baseman. So it's Adam Frazier. It's somebody they wanted to get at the deadline, and to me,
Why didn't they get him?
I didn't recognize the names that they gave away. Is that bad?
No, that's good. That's good.
Well, yeah, but I meant like I didn't recognize them. Should I have recognized
No.
them? Okay,
I didn't
good.
recognize them either. So that's good that you didn't get rid of any prospects that you were like trying to keep. The weird thing about this is it was a second baseman. Seemingly the one they wanted all the time. And yet how much did we hear about Abraham Toro and we want this guy, Toro. Where's Toro gonna play now?
Third?
Well,
Well, hopefully
According
not
to
a
this-
lot, right?
Yeah, according to this report, or according to everything we're hearing, is they still want a third baseman real bad. Like, they want a big bat to insert in the lineup.
Is one of those guys going to
assuming
play
that-
first?
So that
Maybe,
would put Toro back in the
but-
spot that he was in before, right?
Which was not playing.
Which was not playing back, like not able to get past the guys in front of him.
Yeah. So
yeah,
But wouldn't that kind of like, if it ends up that they get somebody to play third, let's just say Trevor Story, just purely for example, you have
Corey
Trevor
Seager.
You have okay.
That's not-
somebody
that can't
somebody
happen, right?
literally said. I saw one of the fan comments on this story was like, "Oh, now if we just get Story or Seager," and I was like, "Do you really think that Kyle Seager, who's leaving because he hates Dipoto so much, is going to be like, yeah, bro, go to the Mariners,' and Corey's going to be like, hey, man, I think I'm going to go to Seattle."
Yeah.
No.
I don't think Corey Seager is going to have any shortage of options.
Yeah, exactly. But let's say, for example, it's Story.
that would be the most.
So then you have Story at third, Crawford at short, Frazier at second,
Toro
and-
at first?
No, you got Ty France at first.
Well, France can DH.
No. Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
Or Toro DH.
Toro at DH.
He was. Did he drop off hitting as well? Because I know he struggled in the field.
He never really dropped off. Like
Okay.
he dropped off because he had such a hot start.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it never got bad.
Okay. So he could be potentially be looking at DH spot then.
Maybe they. But the thing is he and Adam Frazier can play outfield too, and everybody's like, oh, he's got great versatility, and I'm like, yeah, but we're kind of stocked full of outfielders,
And
like, we
he's
don't-
an all-star second baseman.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
so let's put it this way: if they end up with a Toro who's just never playing, I'm gonna be again upset at all of the freaking rhetoric that we heard out of that organization that didn't turn out to be true. Like, while I kind of like the moves they're making in the like. Can you just be honest and be like, well, we didn't get Adam Frazier. Toro was our second bet, and that's why we went and traded. But, like, the whole, this is the guy. And then the next offseason, the very next offseason, you go and find somebody who also plays that position. Like, that seems a little weird, right?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to not like a move a lot and still not like you don't have to be saying like you're not saying Dipoto's a failure.
Okay.
Like this is over. You're not saying that, but that
I'll say
move
it.
was badly timed. Of course you will. That move was badly timed, and in retrospect, especially as we're seeing now, it's looking more and more like it wasn't a good move.
Yeah.
That doesn't. To me, it's okay for. Like I don't have to think Dipoto makes every move that's amazing.
That's true.
Especially if the overall direction of the club is good. I still can hate that.
True. And the rhetoric that I'm saying, he should definitely have that rhetoric. He's trying to spin everything like perfectly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm saying the rhetoric of all of the people who are supposed to be covering the team having
You.
that. Yeah.
That's your job, Daniel.
Those people just walk
Hold
around
those people accountable.
behind Jerry Dipoto on their knees so they can kiss his butt.
Yes.
Did you get that straight from Kyle Seager?
I made it up on the spot.
An unnamed source.
All right. That's enough about the Mariners. We're all still hoping that there's going to be another big move there, but we shall see.
Yeah.
So now it is time to sideswipe Mariano Rivera. I don't know. I can't think of a way to actually do it.
I've been trying to work it in organically.
I know.
And it didn't happen. But I think since we've done such a good job of working it in the last few weeks, let's just say it.
Yeah.
Mariano Rivera sucks. He's the most overrated player
Yeah, the most
in the
overrated.
history of all sports.
All sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a terrible starting pitcher.
And the second most overrated, yeah, that's true. The second most overrated might be his former teammate, Derek Jeter.
Yeah, who didn't deserve any Gold Glove awards, according to Carlos Correa.
Yep.
Wow.
I think it's fair to say that any Yankee is going to
Is-
be a potential
For being overrated.
yeah, for being very overrated.
Yeah.
Oh, like completely not joking.
No, that's
like
yeah.
that's
And probably any Laker,
Yeah.
Yankee,
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
And
There you
and
go.
I do kind of like
Cowboys,
Tony
yeah.
Romo. Even as a player, I kind of liked him, but I definitely got overrated.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he was underrated and underappreciated.
I saw a fan theory this week that pointed out that Tony Romo Jason Garrett always had Jason Garrett either as his coordinator or as his coach. And now that we know how bad Jason Garrett is at coaching, that
just got fired.
perhaps Tony Romo was actually a lot better than we realized.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was a huge Reddit post about it. It was
Interesting.
like full off-season form, and the season's not even over yet.
Reddit is a horribly negative place.
It depends on where you go. You gotta pick your spots.
Okay.
I would say a lot of it. You are absolutely correct.
It's time for the mailbag.
Oh,
Quick
The
hit.
mailbag.
Yes, the
Send us your
mailbag.
stuff. Send us your stuff in a mailbag.
that's entirely my fault. I forgot that this upcoming subject was in the mailbag. I was just expecting that to happen before the mailbag. That was me.
No,
that was
that
all
makes
me.
sense.
So this question from The Godfather has been sitting in our show sheet for a few months.
At least.
Yeah.
With a blue highlight.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that we all have opinions on, but I've been putting it off because it's kind of a touchy subject in some ways, and also I don't want to say something wrong. So
Is
Daniel,
this the first time in your life you've worried about saying something wrong?
Yeah, right?
I worry about it. It just doesn't stop me most of the time. Daniel, how big of a problem is daddy ball in youth and high school sports?
Well, okay, so let's start out by saying that defining what daddy ball is, because when I teased this at the end of our last show,
Yeah.
my brother was like, "What's daddy ball?"
Yeah.
So, as we all know, lots of times parents are coaches, and there's nothing wrong with parents being coaches.
It's
It's
mandatory
kinda
at younger levels.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have parents who are involved. What daddy ball is when the kids of the coaches are getting special treatment, right?
Yep.
That's the issue that we're talking about here, right? Whether you think that kid's not as good as another kid, and yet, like say my son is playing shortstop, even though, let's be honest, he should be in right field.
That's an extreme example.
That's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But I
But
think
yeah.
we've all seen it, right? At different points. And then on the other side, because I think that this can also bring up issues, not usually an issue of daddy ball, but sometimes you get parents of the kids who should be playing shortstop and hitting third, and yet they're maybe worried about it, so their kid's playing right field and hitting last. And you're
because they're
"Ah."
talking to the coach and being like, "Hey, I don't want him playing there. It's too dangerous." That
No,
sort of
No,
thing,
like
or-
coaches have such an aversion
Oh,
to
I got
daddy
you.
ball.
putting their own-
Yes, absolutely. Then the coach's kid, but the coach is really worried and super hard on his kid, so his kid is doing extra running after because his dad got mad at him because he booted a ball in outfield where he's playing, even though he
Yes.
could probably be playing in shortstop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess
that
the
definitely
position-
happens also.
The position switch is a little extreme with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
Second
kid-
base instead of
But
or
the
something.
kid who's like, if my kid is good, or I'm treating him so much worse or harder than all of the other kids because I'm worried about doing daddy ball. But I think that's the kind of the issues. And I think that, in youth sports, like we said, you need parents who are involved. I think at all levels, you need parents who are involved.
But at least in school sports,
Yeah.
there are paid positions, so
That's-
you can get people to do those jobs without having the investment of a child on the team.
Exactly. And that's where it kind of comes into, because I think that, yes, you're going to run into it at all levels. At least high school and below. It's rare to see a college coach with a kid on the team, but you see it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But you're going to run into it at all levels. And yes, every now and then you're going to have people who you're like, man, your kid's, he's a nice kid, but he's really not good. Why are you putting him at the best positions? And that's going to happen. But when you get into school ball, does it seem like there's kind of a coaching shortage, maybe, that you have to rely on parents so much, and then that makes that start happening more and more at higher levels? Is that a coaching shortage thing, kind of like how we're seeing an official shortage?
It could be.
And I don't know, have we seen it happen?
A thought that I was having in thinking about this whole issue is that the actual question that we have is how big of a problem is daddy ball, and it's an issue because if a guy enjoyed, anyone who coaches, I'm not gonna say 90% of people, 99% of people who coach, if they have kids, their kids are gonna want to play sports also.
Yeah.
And they're going to end up being involved in coaching their kids at some point. Yeah. So it's an issue. It's even the only way you can never, ever confront this issue on a personal level and be involved in sports is to not have kids. Like, it's whether you are so worried that you can't deal with it, so that you have to be like, hey, I can't coach these teams these years, even though I would normally. If you're I'm saying if you're a coach, if you're a professional coach, if you have kids, at some point you're going to have to make the decision, I can't coach this team, or you're going to have to be coaching your kid saying, well, this is how we're going to do this. Like, so I just thought it's not just like it's not as simple as, just don't let parents coach their kids in high school or whatever. Like, it can't be because the best coaches are still going to have kids, and they're going to, a lot of those kids are going to come up playing those sports.
And a lot of those kids are going to be pretty darn good.
A lot of them are going to be really good.
And so that gets
genetics.
That's the other part about it, is just because they're the coach's kid doesn't mean they're playing too much.
Yeah.
And
that's where it becomes a problem, like a thing that hurts the game, but a problem like something that's difficult to solve. Like, there's not an easy solution other than, well, there isn't an easy solution. To me, the answer is to be aware of it, and as a parent, and not just as a parent, in supporting the coaches of your kids, being aware of, hey, this is something that is influencing the way I'm viewing the game. This is something that's influencing how the coach is viewing the game. And as coaches, being extra aware that this is something that is influencing how I'm seeing the game. And
it's also an easy target for parents. Now, Justin, as he usually does, as the only person who's actually been in this position, is staying quiet and letting us morons blabber back and forth about it. But
I'm in the perfect position here, having no children.
Yeah. Before I force Justin to speak on this, it's the easiest target of parents who are grumpy about their kid not playing, right? Oh, your kid is playing as the coach, or that kid's dad is the coach or a coach. So that's the easiest target of like parent to be like, that's why my kid's not playing, right? I feel like that's kind of the easiest target. Like, oh, my kid's not playing because this kid's coach is the dad. But that is also not always the case. And I would probably say rarely the case.
From personal experience, I have been accused of favoring my kid ahead of someone else's kid.
You don't have kids.
Yes, that was pointed out to the person. That happened when I was coaching middle school, and it was just a kid, but our kid isn't playing enough because his coaches are playing their kids, and neither of his position coaches had children that were playing, and we were like, that one's easy to dismiss at least.
Yeah, for sure. Justin, having gone through this, having had teams that your son has played on, both with other people coaching their kids, and then you also coaching your kids, how do you walk the line? Because first of all, I want to know how you walk the line of not going daddy ball, so not playing your kid, batting him leadoff and having him play shortstop, or something to that equivalent, and yet also not being too hard on your kid to try and prove that, oh, my kid's not getting special treatment. Look, he's running over there by himself. You terrible kid. Because I think it is a fine line to walk.
It is.
There's something else there. That can still backfire. You can still get well, yeah, of course your kid's better because he's getting extra coaching and you're harder on him and holding him to a higher standard. Like that really can backfire.
I never thought about that one.
Yeah, I've actually seen that before.
Yeah.
That's real.
Wow.
Because every parent has a different idea of how their specific child should be coached. My goal always, which I think is probably the goal of 99% of the people I've ever coached with or against, is I want to treat my child exactly like every other child. The problem is there's two big issues with that. One is you're dealing with parent perception and child perception, and people are predisposed to think that unfair things are happening to their child or themselves. That's just sort of the way it is. I've had the benefit of having a lot of really great parents and a lot of teams that I haven't had huge issues with this. I've had a few minor ones, but not huge ones. I also think because my experience coaching was all through youth sports, and at least for me, whenever I managed a team, with the exception of the all-star team that I managed, I was never managing to score or win. I wanted to win, and I wanted to teach the kids to be competitive, but it was much more about learning, developing, and having fun. So I had a general policy in baseball that everybody's going to play at least one inning in the infield every game. And
In the infield?
In the infield.
Wow.
Every game. Everybody plays at least one inning in the infield every game. And I asked the kids at the beginning of the season, who's interested in pitching, who's interested in catching. And I tried really hard to make sure that at some point throughout the season, every kid that wanted to got a chance to pitch, and every kid that wanted to got a chance to catch. I wanted to give them opportunities because one thing I have felt is that occasionally kids don't get chances to do things that they want to do, and then sometimes when you stick them in that spot, it's like, oh my gosh, how come we didn't do this from the beginning? So it was always my goal, and I can't say I was always successful at it, but it was always my goal to, number one, treat my kids the same as everybody else, and number two, give everybody opportunities to do what they wanted to do. I think in youth sports, daddy ball is kind of just an inevitable hard truth. You're not going to get a lot of people who want to coach teams because it's hard. It's a grind, and you have to deal with a lot of different stuff, and it's a demanding schedule. So you're not going to get a lot of people who don't have kids on teams to do that. To me, when you get into school sports, high school for sure, at a lower level, junior high, parents coaching should be avoided at all costs. It's a different scenario if you have an established coach who was there before and their kid grows up and grows through the program.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that be successful. I feel like the first thing that always comes to my mind is Matthew Jensen and Terry Jensen. They won a state title Matthew's senior year.
Yeah.
There could have been grumblings behind the scenes. I didn't hear any of it.
Yeah.
I don't know of any big issues that came up with that. But the thing I think becomes a problem is when you have parents who you go through the natural progression with your child. You coach them through all these levels. When those coaches grow into the junior high and high school ranks with the kids, that's the kind of stuff that creates a lot of issues, because now you have a new coach who's not established coming in, and there's all this perceived favoritism. And then what ends up happening in a lot of these scenarios too is like the guys who have been coaching against each other or with each other have issues with each other and with kids playing time and stuff like that. And then you can also end up with the opposite effect of the favoritism. Like, I know of one scenario in particular where it was like, I'm not making any decision with my kid. So I'm a coach on this team, but if you want my kid to start here, head coach decides that, not me, because they're trying to dissolve themselves of any wrongdoing. Like, we don't want any perception that my child is being favored by me because I'm a coach.
Yeah.
But people don't always know the inner workings of that.
Most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just from what I've observed over the last several years, I think if you have an established coach with a program who's been with the program, it is reasonable to think that their child can come into the program, be coached through the program, and everything should be fine. If you have parents who are going up through the levels with their kids and then trying to coach in high school sports, they should be hired as coaches only if there's no other option.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is no other option.
It's true.
Sometimes there is no other school staff member or other qualified person to come in and take those roles. And so people end up in those roles. But if it were me and I were running a program, I would avoid that at all costs, because not only is it a public perception issue, but you're also putting those people in a very difficult scenario that they don't always know how hard it's going to be until the crap hits the fan. Mm-hmm. And those situations can get really ugly.
Yeah.
I've been of the general opinion for several years that parents ruin high school sports. Usually, they ruin it from the outside by doing one of two things: putting a bunch of stupid ideas in their kids' heads about what should be happening, or getting together with the other parents and talking about all this stuff that is going on in their perception, and you get cliques and groups of parents and grades of parents that cause huge issues in these programs. So for me, I would be of the opinion that in general, the less parental involvement you have once the kids are in high school sports, the better.
Involvement in the politics of how
Exactly.
the team is run. Because
Exactly.
you want parental involvement in support.
No, you want them to support them. You want them to encourage their kids to practice and spend extra time on it, and be invested in driving them to and from stuff.
And the education side.
Exactly.
Like, you want parents to be really involved in
Even
the support of their
coaching
kid.
though, like I feel like even if like Anchor grows up and is playing high school baseball, my suggestion would be, unless you're already coaching high school baseball, which could totally happen by then, don't talk to his coaches before you coach him, because you could even mess if you're teaching him to throw a certain way and you're like, hey, I don't want you throwing your pitch like that. You need that's between him and his coach now,
Oh,
and that's gonna be like that's where it comes in. That's
you just
hard.
Made me cringe so
Yeah.
much because maybe I value my baseball knowledge more than I should.
I don't.
But I could get that's when you have some real meaningful arguments when you're like, hey, your coach is telling you to do this. That's gonna hurt your arm.
Yeah, and that's where it's difficult, because that's a situation where it could very honestly, if you have to trust your coach, like you have to trust the coach that he's playing with.
And yet, that's when Justin was talking about this, when you were saying cliques or kids, parents telling their kids something or getting together with other parents. I think all of this stems from, if you have a problem with someone, you need to talk to that person first.
Yeah.
And I guess that
What?
happens.
Not be passive aggressive?
And I guess that happens too, and that also is kind of brutal for coaches too. I've talked to different coaches that I really respect, and I think the most overwhelming thing I hear is coaching is awesome, and coaching the kids is awesome, and parents and the politics make it almost unbearable. Mm-hmm. Have you not heard that multiple times from coaches?
That's true.
Like,
It's
they
definitely
love
true.
coaching and they love the kids, but gosh darn it, the parents make it impossible.
I have told kids who played baseball for me, no, go tell your dad that I want you to do it this way.
Yeah.
Well, while you're playing for me and I'm coaching you, I want you to do it this way. I will verify first that I'm right.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be the person who's just pretending that I know everything.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to pitching, hitting, there's a ton of intricacies, and I've had kids, I try to correct them on something and they'll say, well, no, so-and-so told me to do it this way. And I've told kids, well, while you're playing for me, you're going to do it the way I tell you to. And I want you to do it this way.
And I brought up the extreme thing of, you could hurt your arm.
Yeah.
That's kind of extreme, because then let's say there is a coach that is telling you to do something that could hurt your arm. That's hopefully your coach would be like, if you could present it and be like, look, this is the research I've done, and you should do that in a very controlled manner, hey, and then give them the chance to be like, oh, here's the research that I've done, and support it. But especially if it's like, oh no, my dad tells me that I need to chop wood and swing straight down, and you're like, while you're playing for me, let's keep that swing level. It'll work. You don't have to swing straight into the ground to keep from popping up. Then that's totally. And now I'm thinking like just bringing in the Andrew, you freaked me out with that question because now I'm like I'm going to be one of those terrible parents.
Just coach.
I don't think that you will
just
be
coach the team.
because I believe that you will not be a terrible parent because I think that you have the self-awareness to realize that you need to go talk to the coach and be like, "Hook, I have these concerns about," and you're coming at it from a baseball standpoint where maybe they're a terrible coach but most likely you're going to be able to be like, "Oh, well, this is what I'm,"
Yeah.
I think the other thing that can't be left out of this conversation is that there are dads out there who have a relentless pursuit of their children getting everything preferential regardless of who they step on. Yeah. So this is an issue, not just because parents perceive it as an issue and it's not a real issue. It's a real issue.
Yeah.
There are people who I know of who are like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how this affects anyone else. I want my kid to get these opportunities. My kid's the best. He should be doing this. He should be doing that. Sometimes those people are parents on the outside. Sometimes they're coaches on the staff.
Yep.
And it creates an insane amount of infighting between coaches who are trying to do their job properly and someone who only cares about what happens best with their child.
Yeah.
Especially when that kid is pretty. It's a lot easier to dismiss that when it's like, yeah, no, your kid isn't that good. Get out of here. When the kid is good, then you're like, but we can't play him every.
But also,
like,
coaching is all about trying to put the pieces together. You're
Yes,
trying to put puzzle
absolutely.
pieces together in the most functional way.
Yeah.
So sometimes what you need out of somebody might not be what they want to do or what their parent wants them to do.
Or even what they're best at.
Yeah, exactly.
They might be second best at that, but
Yeah.
you have somebody who's best at that spot compared to the two. Like, I was the best second baseman on my team, but it was better for me to play shortstop on my team because that was where they needed me. That's not where I was the best at. And, I mean, that's kind of a crappy comparison because shortstop's generally viewed as the better position you should want to play, and I was very honored to play there, but that was not my best spot. Or I guess maybe a better comparison was like, this kid's best position is shortstop, but we have another shortstop who's really good, and we don't have a center fielder.
Yeah.
So I always bring
this,
things.
yeah, this kid's fast.
I realize I'm bringing everything to baseball.
No, but that's true. That's, I think, maybe true in baseball almost more than any other sport because I've been involved in coaching all-star teams where there's a kid who, you got an all-star team together, so these kids are all shortstops.
Yep.
There's a kid who really wants to play first base. Well, you can also play center field, and you're good at it. And we have another kid who's done nothing but play first base all year. So I want to put you in center field and this kid play first base. And sometimes the buy-in for the dad is harder than the buy-in for the kid.
Yes.
And I know from my own experience of coaching my younger son through his first All-Star tournament, I've made some of these mistakes myself, where I needed the manager of our team to be strong and tell me, hey, no, you're wrong here. And he did that. And I'm eternally grateful for the fact that he just said, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
We need to do it this way because you're not seeing what I'm seeing. And then he was right. But it was, I'm blinded by my own, this is what I think my kid can do.
Yeah.
And I was nervous for him to be in a scenario where he wasn't going to be comfortable. And then when he was put into that spot, he thrived.
Yeah.
So I think having a strong head coach who will take control and be honest with everyone involved can really help a lot of that. Like, you have a non-dad head coach. You could kind of get away with having coordinators and assistant coaches that are dads, but only if your head coach, number one, is respected, number two, is competent, and number three, is honest and can tell you, no, this is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah. I realize that, I don't know. I know it's a negative connotation, but I'm sure this happens with mommy ball as well. And I thought of a good example. You're bringing up good examples of when there's an established head coach and the kid grows into it. I mean, Lisa
Johnson
in Elma, established head coach in Elma. Her daughter comes up, part of the program, grows into high school. That age group goes on to, into the state tournament. that is, as we were talking about, a very successful way. And I don't think I haven't heard any rumblings about, oh, Kaylee was only playing point guard because no, she was a good point guard. Like, that's just how it happened. But I just wanted to bring up, like, I'm sure these scenarios don't just play out with dads. Like,
So
it's whatever parent wants to be involved and how they want to be involved.
So I guess for a parent that you have kids and you want to be involved in their coaching, start coaching now. Not your kids. Don't start coaching now.
If you want to coach coach at high school, then get involved before your kids in high school.
Yeah.
And coaching not your kids is probably a good way to prepare you for what to treat your kid like when they get there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
Because
is.
I've never coached a team that one of my kids wasn't on. Fortunately, I'll add this too. I was lucky, as I've seen so many dads that I've coached with and against struggle with their kids and butt heads with their kids. My children are extremely easy. So I can count on one hand the amount of issues that I had with one of my boys or my daughter last year in softball with having some kind of issue coaching a child.
I'm hoping, because I'm not there yet. My son's 5 months old. I haven't started coaching him technically yet.
Let's just say, let's hope that he has a gross temperament and not Hargrove temper.
I'm hoping for a mix.
Completely
of a lot of
pig-headed.
No, the thought. I'm hoping that my discussions with coaches and my talkings with you, talkings. That's a weird word. Speaks. We have speaks. That I'm trying to, because I'm worried about these issues when I get there. Like, I'm worried about a lot of these issues, and I've asked you so many questions about how do you parent, how do you do this with your kids, and how do you, encourage your kids to do something without forcing them to do things. And I've had all these things, and I'm hoping that by talking to coaches and also having coached some without my kids doing it, like I helped with some high school teams when obviously I didn't have a kid on the team because it was years ago, but I was a coach on high school teams. And also, I know this is but I've coached softball teams, even though they're slow pitch teams. I'm hoping that working with these different things can kind of prepare me a little bit to get into that spot, because man, when we were playing, I think even as kids we all had those situations where we were like, man, I'm getting treated completely differently from this kid or that kid. And whether that was my dad as the coach or my brother as the coach, because boy, that was pretty obvious when my brother was hitting his ground balls when I was in high school. He would come up and roid one at me as hard as he could, and then everybody else in the line would get a nice ground ball. And it happened when my dad wasn't the coach, and we were like, man, that kid gets to shoot a lot, or something like that. Like, it definitely happens on both sides, and I think that I was always of the opinion before of, yeah, my kid, he's going to be treated harder than everybody else, and I don't think that's right either.
No, sometimes, but I'll just say, like, it's all a balancing act. So sometimes you do it to compensate for what other people are saying or doing or what other perceptions are. And for me, it's less been about like the hard coaching, and it's been more about who gets what opportunities. Like, well, why does your kid always get the pitch? Okay, I'll put my kid in left field. Your kid can pitch. Like, not directly like that, but in a similar fashion. So I there's also an example that I'll just bring up that is another reason why it can be really difficult. So there's a person that we both know who used to be a local girls basketball coach.
Okay.
And this person coached for a few years, and it was through while his daughter was in high school. And it becomes a problem not only because people think that, and this is his daughter with her friends and the people that she's been hanging out with, and she's friends with outside of basketball and been playing basketball with these girls for years. And the coach does something that the rest of the girls perceive as unfair or they don't like. So then the coach's daughter has to sit there in the locker room and listen to these girls just complain about her dad.
Wow.
And it creates issues between kids as well. Like, it's not just the issue of parents coaches or players coaches. It creates issues between players for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately you might have been right with the way you started this conversation. Like, these things are happening because sometimes there legitimately is nobody else to do the job. And I'm not saying that you should never have a parent who coaches high school sports.
Yeah.
I think that schools need to be really, really, really careful about who they let in and what the situation is around it, because it can create situations and issues that you never dreamed of. It can turn people who have been working well together for years and years and years can turn against each other because, well, now it's high school and now scholarships are on the line. Now you got kids who are going to these camps that they pay thousands of dollars to go to, where people are telling them, oh no, you're great, you should be a high prospect. And parents just buy into that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when the stakes get higher and parents think what happens now is going to be a huge impact on what happens in the future, it causes people to turn against each other in a way.
Especially when they're thinking, I want my kid to go to school, but it'd be really nice if I didn't have to put off retirement for 40 more years.
That too.
Like, there's financial reasons why people start caring a lot.
Or you're living vicariously through your child, because if you really cared that much about the college expense, why would you be paying thousands of dollars every summer for your kids to go to camps to be
Maybe you
scouted?
think that's his best. Maybe you think that's his best route.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it isn't always just people living vicariously through their kids.
Yeah, I
There's
think
also a
that's
lot
definitely true.
more of other pressures that add to that.
But you do see that a lot.
Oh no, you see that that is at the root of even in middle school.
I mean, I'll bring that up. When I explained to my brother the definition of daddy ball, that was the first thing my brother brought up. Was like, yeah, and then there's also the people who are vicariously living through their kids to live out their dreams.
Yeah.
Also something I'm worried about.
So it's probably one of those things that we talk about a lot that's an unsolvable issue within local sports that we're just going to run into. And the other thing is, there's a lot of gray area. People need to realize not all these situations are the same. Like, there's a lot of right and wrong. There's a lot of mixture of right and wrong. There's a lot of neutral territory where people and relationships are complicated. Yeah. And you can't judge a situation from the outside often because you don't know everything that happened inside. So, we can draw conclusions if we want to, but I guess there's a couple of these scenarios that I know very intimately what happened on the inside of them. And I see a lot of, man, this is a crappy situation, but I see how you got there. Like, I understand why you made the decisions that you did to get to this spot.
Yeah.
And now you're in an unwinnable position. So, that's it. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, you can see why we put off this topic for so long.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own opinions.
Yeah. But
we all can see the perfect situation.
Yeah.
And the perfect situation is very hard to get to.
Yeah.
The perfect situation is finding a place with a world-class coaching staff all the ages, and raising your kids there. And that's hard to find.
It is hard to find.
And when it exists, people look sideways at you when you want to move there.
Okay, guy.
I don't even live in Monte anymore, but that is part of, not to get you salty, that is part of why stuff like that happens, because of that perception of, I can go there and I don't have to worry about who's going to be coaching my kids. They're probably going to be awesome. That is part of why.
Or established.
Oh, yes, established. Like, I don't have to worry about it. Like, that's just.
And also, there's a billion reasons why parents or players get frustrated with a certain organization. Like, you have a kid who comes up through Monte but feels like that they weren't treated the way that they were supposed to, and so they transfer to Hoquiam, or vice versa. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes around.
Oh, sure.
You know, and sometimes it's like, sometimes you can look at that situation with the parents and go, okay, really? Like, you're doing that just for a sports situation? And sometimes there's like a lot of really legitimate stuff that are good reasons why they want to go somewhere else.
Yep.
I was just saying, like, the perfect situation, and realized I could, like, midway through that, I realized I could swing it into a swipe at Daniel. So. Or Daniel's favorite pet subject, I guess.
Yeah, and you see it more so. I mean, I always joke that Monte's the private school of the area.
Right.
That's not actually true.
No, they're a public school.
Yeah. But could you imagine having this conversation in an area where there were private school options?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Linden Christian.
Kings.
Royal. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. Royal's just a public school. Yeah.
That blew my mind. All right. Are we good?
Yeah, let's just leave it by saying everyone needs to kind of look at every scenario with understanding. Like, try not to assume that everyone in every situation is horrible and bad, because there's a lot of gray area in there. But also, you have to know that sometimes people are doing the best they can for the team, and sometimes they're doing the best they can just for their kid. So it's hard to know,
And if you don't
it's hard to
think-
parse out what's what, but
If you
just
don't
try
think
to
that's a
just
problem, you
well,
are
it
the
is.
problem. That's what I was going to say. I was
Good
going to say,
point.
if you don't think it's a problem, you're the problem.
But just try to view it with human understanding.
Yes.
Like, everybody's a human. Everybody makes mistakes,
Yep. Absolutely.
except me.
Well, obviously, present company accepted.
The world and the world of sports would be better if we all had a little bit more grace for each other. That is absolutely for sure. All right, that's going to do it for our show today.
So for my co-host Daniel, everybody makes mistakes, Hargrove.
And Justin, except Justin Damashevitz. Our special guest today, Ian Cope. Thank you so much to him coming
was great.
and filling and giving us background and really a deep dive onto that great Montesano team. That was awesome. He's also the voice of Grace Harbor High School sports, which bugs him every time I say that, and yet I'm going to keep calling him that. And our trusty producer,
Andrew, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Andrew, what was his name though? Goat?
Yeah.
Andrew Goat.
Andrew Goat Gross. The
Listening
Goat.
to
Go
Scrimmage.
Cougs.
That plays really well after I was bad-mouthing how friendly goats were, too.
That's so true.
Goats are the worst.
Hee hee.